Okay, for people who are joining us, we are looking at graph database capabilities in upcoming version of Wolfram Language and reviewing some of those capabilities. And we have a bit of background noise here, but okay, all right. So we've looked at a lot of this before. Boy, it's a shame that we've got names like select and aggregate that are both similar to but different from the relational database analogs of these.
Actually, for instance, the aggregate is pretty similar. So the design decisions are in line. The links won't work because.
Okay, so do we have examples and things here?
Yes, some basic examples.
Okay, so these are raw Sparkle capabilities here.
Yes, so that's why all of those functions are prefixed with Sparkle to replicate exactly what the standard says.
Okay, all right.
So
By the way, for goodness sake, the more abouts should point to the other database stuff and so on, right?
Yes.
And this is, okay, so this, I mean, shouldn't this be called Graph Store Package Overview? Right, because that's what this is. It's a package. It's the Graph Store package, correct? Yes?
Yes.
Shall I edit it, or do you want to?
But you can edit all of the changes and I'll integrate them.
Okay.
For instance, we have the library link. It also doesn't mention package in the
Well, it says the word link.
Okay.
Well, okay, fine. Look. The Graph Store package provides capabilities for representing, querying, and updating RDF graphs and data sets well, as well as querying them using the power of Sparkle, basically.
Yes.
Updating. Well, so basically the point here is that the package defines a symbolic layer that can be used to make Sparkle queries against local or remote endpoints, data sources. What do you want to say?
So in the case of remote, it's called Sparkle endpoint. In the case of local, yeah, the general term is an RDF store.
Against local stores, local RDF stores, or remote Sparkle endpoints, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think endpoint is one word?
One word.
Database links. Somebody is pointing out the database link also doesn't say package. Well, it says, okay, so we're saying it in the middle here. Okay. Carl on our live stream is asking about integration of this stuff with the entity framework.
Yeah, I have some prototypes, but they are not ready.
Okay. And what do we think is ultimately going to be the way that that's going to happen? I mean, is it going to be that just like in Entity Store right now? So if we go to Entity Store, what we're seeing is, why is this so slow? Andrea, could you please report this again, that both opening the root guide page and going to an individual page is super slow, and that, we're seeing, spinning disks and things getting there.
Okay, I will report it.
So one idea is to have to build an entity store backed by an RDF store or Sparkle endpoint. That means where you have relational database, you could have an RDF store.
Yes, seems highly sensible to me. But then the question is, okay, so then given that entity store, then the question is what querying capabilities there are, and that entity store, we have now provided these relational querying capabilities, but are you saying that ultimately, the thing I'm not understanding is the relationship between, one of the problems I was realizing, I was talking to somebody a couple of days ago about the theory of relational algebra and relational calculus and all this kind of thing, and all these crazy, normal forms. And I have to say, it sounds like it's just a wonderfully exotic sounding area by the time they have things like fifth normal form and so on, But a lot of those are about sort of how much replication of data there is when you have different tables and foreign keys and all this kind of thing. And I don't know triple stores solve that in a different way. Anyway, what I'm yakking about is, when we look at what can you do with an entity store, the most trivial thing is entity property value stuff. But then what you're doing here is a quite different way. Okay, if we look at the things that we're supporting for relational queries, can you also support those against a Sparkle endpoint or not?
Yes, so the idea is that once we support an RDF store as an entity store argument, then entity or filtered entity class, sorted entity class aggregation, they will be translated to the corresponding Sparkle queries automatically.
Okay.
That means it's just another backend for entity store.
But are those relational type queries really the ones that, look, right now we've got three types of queries. We've got the data set like queries that can involve full Wolfram language syntax. We've got the relational database queries, which are a more impoverished set that may depend on what the actual relational database backend is. And then we've also got the Sparkle query, the things that are supported in Sparkle queries, right?
Yes.
What about Mongo, for example? Is that yet another? We should presumably be able to back an entity store with a MongoDB instance. Is that right? Or is that not where we should be going with that?
I don't know about that. I could look into it.
Okay. All right. Fine. Okay.
So one thing is, all of those functions, those new Sparkle functions, are basically corresponding to the intermediate layer in the relational database project, which is not yet exposed. So this is a solid foundation on which we can build, and I'm working on some small super functions that will make working with those RDF data easier.
Okay. But are we expecting that, for example, we'll have a copy of our, pieces of our knowledge base in Sparkle form for different kinds of querying than we are doing right now, or what?
Implicitly, yes, because the idea is that we can apply, for instance, a Sparkle select to an entity type, which means that the entity type is implicitly viewed as an RDF graph. That means there's a implicit conversion between entities and RDF data. For instance, each entity gets an IRI and so on.
Okay. But so wait a minute. So the first step then is to take all of our entities and give them IRIs. Is that true?
Yes. Yes, I have a proposal for that for the future.
Okay. Okay. And okay, so that's interesting enough. This is a very strange statement used to identify physical or abstract things.
It's basically, just to not say, it's used to identify anything.
Well, used to identify entities, right? Used as a unique identifier of things. Used as a general
unique, not necessarily, because people can mint different identifiers for the same thing.
Also, don't you use IRIs for properties, or am I confused by that, Tony?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, you do. Well, it's like, what would you say after the word a URL? What is a URL? It's a you cannot say physical or abstract things. It just doesn't. But I'm not going to rewrite everything here, because I just don't think that. I mean, this is a package, and it's an experimental package, and it's not something where we're going to have quite the same level of scrutiny. Okay, hold on. Used to. Used as a basic general identifier.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. RDF triple. Okay, I understand. Oops. Now, the tests that you've got here, or the examples you're giving here, that seems a bit light on examples, but
yes, so they are distributed over different places. For instance, the RDF store has some more examples. Sparkle Select has a lot of examples.
Okay, but you probably want to copy examples, boy. Well, it's interesting. It's interesting to see this kind of. I mean, this is sort of the promise of the semantic web, is that you can do stuff like this. I just can't imagine this is going to work. I mean, it requires so many correspondences of what you're actually talking about that I cannot believe people are going to get right.
Well, that's what some future simple functions will do. For instance, I'm planning IRI value, which is similar to entity value, but for IRIs, they can ask for the properties, retrieve a value for a certain property of an entity or entity IRI, things like that.
I just don't see where, I mean, the examples you're giving here, yeah, we know about these things, but I mean, I'm just confused about, like for example, Tim Berners-Lee's solid thing. Do you understand what that is? Or is that supposed to be generating lots of other IRIs that are being thrown out on the web or something? Know anything about it? I'm not sure if the thing is very alive anymore.
Solid. I read about it.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's take a look at. Yeah.
RDF to store their data.
No, I realize that, but I mean, the fact is, the world isn't a big RDF store at this point, and there's no great. Well, okay, never mind. Okay, let's take a look at this. So this is Sparkle variable. Oh my gosh. I mean, like, I have no idea what Sparkle evaluation. It's doing some particular things that happen to be doable by a Sparkle server. Is that correct?
Yes.
No, you can't do this. Look. Represents a function with wait. What are the possible names here?
So there's a long list of names, and we could maybe list them.
We got to list them. Okay, so this has got to say, because what you're doing here is completely obscure, right? So this has got to say Sparkle evaluation of quotes. Well, what are these things called in Sparkle? Operations or what?
I'm checking. Well, they're called just functions.
Okay. Well, okay. What represents the built-in Sparkle function with name. Let's just say with a specified name. To be evaluated during Sparkle graph pattern matching. All right?
Yes.
The following possible built-in Sparkle functions include, and then there's going to be some big list of them.
Yeah, maybe 50 or so things like str, len, substr, things that have a more appropriate name or longer names in our language.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and then say what they are.
Yes.
Yeah, Carl on the live stream is saying we should look at Wikidata. Yes, I'm quite aware of Wikidata. And we have, I mean, arguably, we should provide specific functions. Just like we provide Wikipedia data, we should provide specific functions for doing lookups in Wikidata. Is there any reason not to do that?
We could do that. Already, once we have IRI value, that might help a lot for beginners to work with that data.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's keep looking here. I mean, there's so much here. It's kind of hard to. Let's look at the guides here. RDF concepts. Sparkle query. Sparkle update.
So those contain all the symbols that are new.
I understand. So let's look at basic RDF structures for a second here. We need to move that over. And please copy that over in other places where it's to be used. Yes. Oops, what just happened here? That's crazy. What is going on? Why am I not able to write that? Something is going on. I'm pressing Command V and nothing is happening. See, it's flashing the edit thing and nothing is happening.
I'm reporting that.
That's just totally weird. Well, I guess I get to do the old-fashioned, like on a typewriter type thing. Just retype it. Okay. This is very odd. This isn't showing up. Oh, yes, it is. Okay. All right. Okay. That should be formatted differently, obviously.
Yeah, DQA is working on the format.
Okay, so these formats are now going to the format pages that are for reading in and out those formats, correct? Yes. Did you knit those formats? So those formats are not, boy, this is like our XML capabilities, right? So this is going to be generating elements which are part of this package, correct?
I don't understand.
Okay, so if I read in an RDF XML format, right?
Yes.
The thing that I get out is going to contain things like IRIs and RDF triples and so on, right?
Correct.
But those are pieces of the graph store context, correct?
Yes. So we had a discussion with the import people of whether we would need needs before those importers work, but they argued that they would always work.
Yes,
even if the user did not say anything.
Definitely. And they would just generate things which are in the Sparkle, in the graph store context.
Good. Yes.
Okay. Did those things get knitted onto the page for the import-export page?
No.
Okay, that needs to be done. We can just do it right now. Let me load up the right things and we'll just do it. Okay, is that the complete set of formats that you have?
They are more on the Sparkle query and Sparkle update. So in total, there are 10 formats.
Okay, all right. So all of those need to be knitted onto the formats page. And each of these actually has a formats page, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All of them are import, export.
Boy, there's a lot of stuff here. People better find this useful. Okay, so let's go to the page. Let me go open the right thing here. It's the format page. No, it's not a format page. I'm sorry, it's a guide page. Wrong. So we can go to the main page actually here, and okay, importing and exporting. Okay, so now we've got formats here. It's a little bigger. Okay, so we have to put these on. So do you have a guide page for graph store formats?
No. They're all in those, but we could have one, yeah.
Okay, so we've got database formats here. I wonder whether we should put this here.
So all of those formats go in 3 categories. One, the biggest, are RDF data.
Okay, but hold on. On this page, where do they go? Do they go in the section on, like here with like XML formats and things, or do you think they go along with database formats?
I would say database formats. So, but those formats are a little bit higher level than pure database formats.
I understand, but then we've also got this scientific and medical data and all that. These are kind of content formats here, but this is a meta format, more like JSON and things. Do you agree?
Yes.
So maybe we can say here, RDF and graph store. Or should we say graph store or RDF and Sparkle related?
It could just be RDF formats because that's the majority. Then the only other formats are the results of Sparkle queries and then the Sparkle query and update strings themselves.
I think this is fine to say RDF and Sparkle related formats. I'm just wondering where this should go. It kind of seems odd that it's so far away from XML. Yeah. But it is really like a data storage thing.
Yeah. Maybe for import, it might all go under one because a user might not care what it is in if it gets RDF data out. But for certain applications for export, your user might wish to specifically export to RDF XML.
Okay, so wait a second. So that's its own separate thing down here. So under XML formats, we should be listing RDF XML somewhere on this page, right?
Yes. And under JSON, we could list JSON LD, for instance.
Okay, all right, fine. Let's get to that in a moment, okay? We haven't broken this out into a separate JSON page. Arguably, we should do that because in any case, these JSON formats are getting kind of confusing. I think we should do that. Okay, so hold on. This is a separate. Okay, so JSON related formats. That's a guide page. Do you know the difference between these JSON formats?
Some. Well, I use raw JSON, but.
Okay, this is going to require types of JSON as well as a variety of mappings between JSON data structures and Wolfram language structures. Okay, and so this probably wants to, gosh, this is going to, somebody's going to have to try and write, see if you can write or get written. Andrea, if you can do this also, just, we need basic descriptions here. So these things, you know, they do different things. Yeah. Nested lists. This is roughly, see, each one has a slightly different twist on what it's doing.
Yes, while JSON and raw JSON basically read the same JSON but represented differently, the others are built on top, like GeoJSON, expression JSON.
What's GeoJSON?
A JSON format for encoding geographic.
And where is that? Where do we have that? I don't see it here.
In $import formats, it appears there.
We might want to list it under this, since I've certainly heard of it.
I saw it on the page. It wasn't out here on this part, but it was on that actual page.
No, I know, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so domain specific. So that's where we have, and I mean, there may be some other ones here, domain specific JSON formats. So that is where we have GeoJSON. What was the other one you were mentioning as domain specific?
Maybe expression JSON, because it is, as far as I understand, particular for the Wolfram language.
No, I don't think that's the right way to think about it here. Map nested JSON mapped. Okay. Full. I think actually it would be better to say nested mapped to JSON. Language expressions. Okay. So now what are the other ones here? We've also got okay, what the heck is the difference in JSON?
JSON means that instead of association, you have list of rules.
Okay.
Maybe Dorian could review all of that later because he seems to be the expert on that right now.
Okay, and then these other ones are UBJSON, that's a binary. Okay. Well, let's see. I don't even know geodata map to JSON, but I don't know exactly what that is, and somebody will have to fill that in. By the way, we arguably should set paren and then the name, the format name. I mean, the like .ubj. Right, should probably be on this page. There's something for Dorian to look at. And Brian, okay, BSON. That's the list of associations. Nested lists and associations mapped to UBJSON. And then we have BSON. Is there any other JSON? I mean, is there any other format? Okay, hold on. What is this thing? Is this domain specific or something? Boy, this seems to be domain specific, and this is JSON formats. Okay, so this is actually this is JSON data storage formats. Binary format used by MongoDB, etc. And now you have one here. What was your one? Was yours a data format thing? What was the one that you have for your RDF stuff?
JSON LD.
What does that stand for?
Linked data.
Okay. JSON format for linked RDF data. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Sometimes linked and RDF are used as synonyms, but
well, I understand.
And there's another one, Sparkle results JSON. which encodes results of a Sparkle query.
Okay, hold on. Let me just get that. What is it called? Sparkle
results JSON.
Result singular?
Results S. That is what a Sparkle endpoint can send back.
Format used by Sparkle endpoints. All right. This will need to be reviewed, but it's at least a start. Okay, RDF and Sparkle related formats. Okay, what's the top one there?
Maybe Turtle.
Okay, I've heard of that at least, which is always good. And it isn't even all the way down. Turtles, that is. Okay, Turtle. Okay, then what?
And Triples, which is a simple line-based format.
Okay, then what?
And then, do we want to list all of them or just some?
No. It's just the top ones and ones that show diversity and what we can do. Yes. And then we will have a separate page that lists them explicitly.
So next, JSON LD, then RDF XML. Yes.
That's it that we need to list, or is there another one that we should show just to show the diversity of what we can do?
So those are the formats plus two more that encode RDF data. But then we can also import and export whole Sparkle queries. That would be called Sparkle query or Sparkle update.
That's what we're going to go do there. Okay.
Yeah, those are the most important ones.
Okay. Okay, so now let me actually do one other thing here. Let me see. I want to look for everything that has JSON in it. Select % string contains Q hash comma JSON. Actually, I'm just going to look for son. Okay, it's everything. Okay, fine. Okay, let's just do the same thing for $export formats just to check there's nothing anomalous there. Nope, same thing. Okay, good. All right. Okay, so then we've got these. We need a page then. Oh, we've got another XML format down here, right? So do we want to list that XML format? So clearly on this page here, we need to list this, right? As an XML format. What is the XML format that you're talking about here?
RDF XML, which is also an RDF format for encoding RDF data.
Okay, so that's probably yet a separate section here. Are there any other XMLs? Let's just check here. Okay, so we got those two to list on this page, right?
Yes. It's basically the same nodes as in the case of JSON.
By the way, to make sure that there are CALSOs between those JSON. Okay. XML representation of RDF linked data, and that data type. What is the name there?
I don't understand.
Well, what's the file name? File type?
Oh, .rdf.
Okay. And the other one, we need to fill these in, by the way, over here. What is the one for JSON LD? What's the file extension?
.json LD.
Okay. Sparkle endpoint results. What's the file extension?
.srj.
Okay. And if you can find it for GeoJSON, if somebody can find that, that'd be useful.
Yeah, it's .geojson.
And these two, what do we call these? That both of these are .json, isn't that correct?
Yes.
And what's our expression JSON called?
It's also .json.
Okay. All right, let's go back down here. So what is this one? Sparkle.
Sparkle results XML.
Why are we calling it that when it's actually called SRJ?
I used for all those formats a camel-cased version or abbreviation, whatever seems most appropriate.
But why aren't we just calling this RDF here?
In the document, it's called RDF XML.
In what document?
The standard that defines it. It's RDF /XML.
Okay, all right. What do we say here? We say
it's equivalent or basically the same as Sparkle results JSON, just the XML version of it.
Okay. XML format used by Sparkle endpoints. And then what? What is it?
SRX.
You know, I have to say that I don't know why we're calling it. I mean, a lot of these other things, like SVG, we could call it scalable vector graphics, but we're not. We're calling it SVG. When people talk about this, do they talk about SRJ and SRX, or do they talk about the longer names? Do you understand my question?
Yes, I haven't seen so much conversation about them because those formats are more in the background, I guess.
All right. Well, I think you should look at that, whether they should be named, you know, to go along with our other format names. You know, this could be called Java View, but it's not. It's called JVX. So, you know, we generally name it by the extension when we can, when there is a reasonable extension. Make sense?
Yes.
So I have to say, I would prefer to see this called SRX, SRJ.
Okay.
Why don't you get back to me in a day or so with that, and we'll change it in these places. Okay? Make sense?
Shall I make the change?
If you believe in the change, then make the change.
Okay, I'll research that.
Okay. Okay. So meanwhile, here you need to produce a page RDF and Sparkle related formats. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we are out of time here, but boy, there's a lot of stuff here. Okay. Okay. Well, great. Well, I'm glad that at least okay, Carl on our live stream is saying I've only ever seen the longer names used. Okay, that's useful. Thank you. Okay, so maybe we'll leave the longer names.
Okay.
Okay. Right. Anything else just very quickly that we should go over here?
Maybe a quick look at Sparkle Select ref page, which is maybe the most important entry point.
Let me ask you a question. Our XML stuff, have you looked at it recently? I mean, it's quite old.
Well, I have used it. for instance, to implement RDF XML.
Do you like it?
I was hoping that the trees project would make certain things simpler. For instance, inheritance. If you define, say, the base at an XML property, then that should be inherited to lower level elements.
Have you communicated that to Jose? Because I think the trees project is about to become active again.
Okay, I will let him know.
Okay. All right, Sparkle select. Is this lazy or not?
Those are all operators like query, our system symbol query.
Which means that it's applied to a graph.
Yes, or it is fed to Sparkle execute.
And Sparkle execute is taking a particular endpoint to which it is applying those queries.
Yes.
Okay. You know, the fact that you always have to define these is really annoying.
Yes, so I'm considering some new mechanism, something like RDF prefix data that has some common things predefined, but I'm experimenting with it still.
But the issue is there. I mean, we've also got this notion of external identifiers. Look, the main point is you don't want to have to say, I mean, if you had external identifier of schema.org, comma, and then the name, at least it saves this ridiculous string joining business.
Yes, so the idea is that you could say RDF prefix data of schema, comma, person, and that would give you the long IRI for the case of certain well-known prefixes that we will have to curate.
Yeah, I understand, but that's what external identifier is supposed to support those things as well. So we need to understand how those correspond.
Yes.
That's an interesting question from the live stream. Should data repository entries be available in JSON LD? So the entity stores, I don't even know what we're providing. That's a really good point, actually, because in the data repository, many things are pure many things here are pure. So, for example, we probably should have a section in here for graph databases. But here, for example, we have some entity stores. There's the question of how can you download that entity store? What the heck is this again? What is that again? I thought that had been fixed. Well, anyway, this is supposed to have some download mechanism, right? But this is, and also, by the way, this needs to be fixed to use register entities. Andrea, that's for you to communicate, please. Are you understanding? Hello? I thought Andrea was here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm here.
Did you understand? Do I need to repeat?
Will you repeat? I'm sorry.
I said this needs two things. First of all, that error needs to be reported. It was supposed to have been fixed.
Yeah.
Second, this here needs to turn into entity register.
Entity register.
Instead of this nonsense with prepend to of entity stores. And the final point is that everything that is an entity store here presumably should be downloadable in something like this JSON LD format.
Yes. So for certain basic data, I have a mapping prototype and I want to extend that to make it possible to export and import as much as possible data between entity and native data and RDF.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying specifically for those data repository entries, which are entity stores, we should be able to use RDF for those.
Yes, and what I mean is that this could be automated in certain cases. As opposed to having to create.
Yeah, okay. So Carl on live stream is saying DCAT would be the ontology to use. I don't know what DCAT is. What is DCAT? You don't know either.
I've seen it, but I don't know. I look into it.
It seems to be this. Whatever.
Yes, that would be helpful to allowing search engines, for instance, to make our data sets discoverable or more easily. It is for providing metadata of data sets.
I see, like Dublin Core, it says.
Mm-hmm.
This looks kind of, I wonder whether anybody's actually using it. I mean, the fact that this was far down in the search thing. Carl says he built it. Okay, interesting. Oh, wait a minute, to build this, here's the Sparkle package to work with the repository. Okay. Okay, so what is this? This is so should we be able to read this in? This is a .ttl file. Should we be able to read this?
We should just be able to say import of that.
Okay, let's give it a try.
Maybe import turtle. Oh, but it worked from the file extension.
So what should we do here? What can we do here?
Well, now explore that, and it's still a little bit complicated. You'll have to write Sparkle queries to look into it.
But so I can't. What would you expect to be able to do in the future? Would you expect to be able to get, like, if I wanted a graph of relationships here?
We could add visualization functions for that.
But roughly, how would I do this?
First of all, a Sparkle query that retrieves some properties or the entities to get an overview of what's in there.
Sorry, say that again.
So one thing I usually do is to get the list of properties to see what's in there, find some typical entities.
Give me an example of a query.
Yeah, Sparkle select of RDF triple of, and then 3 Sparkle variables. Sparkle variable.
What?
Sparkle variable.
This is not simple, in case you were wondering.
Yes.
Okay, now what?
Then the string, for instance, S.
The string what?
S, like subject.
S?
Yes. And then another variable for predicate and object.
Sparkle variable, and then what? Is P for predicate?
Yes.
What am I doing here? I'm typing the wrong thing. Sparkle variable of object, okay. And then what?
And then goes to Sparkle variable P.
What are we doing here?
That's a projection because we want only the P variable.
Okay.
Comma, distinct goes to true because we want only the distinct predicates.
Like that?
Yes, and that's an operator that you can apply to the data set you retrieved.
Okay, what on earth just happened here?
Yes, so this gives you a list of solutions, and the solution is basically a match with a list of association of bindings.
So this is then saying that those are the predicates that are in this data set.
Yes.
So for example, if I were to make, but roughly, if what I wanted here was, if let's say that what I wanted was this, I want subject goes to object. See if I can understand how to do this.
You can't have an expression there on the right-hand side.
Why not? What did this do? Something completely wrong? Oh, it just didn't. It didn't say. What I was trying to do is get the graph of what subjects are related to what objects in that ontology.
Well, so the right-hand side can only be a list. So this should probably fail better, but the right-hand side should only be a list of variables.
Okay, so then this is like this, right?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So why does this say, okay, so then IRI, but why isn't it a list of IRIs on the right there?
So there's.
Oh, I see. Okay, so if I say values / at then those are pairs of IRIs. Then I say rule / at that. And then I say graph. Okay, there we have it. That's the subject-object relationship in that thing.
Yes. And you could restrict it to only a particular property by replacing Sparkle variable P with an actual IRI.
Right. Well, this is pretty nice. I'm going to store this just because, and we could even use, why don't we use we can use Carl's ontology in our examples. Why not? If it's going to be there stably. Let's see, where is this? This is under Sparkle. Okay, I need to go to a different meeting here, but very cool, and it's very encouraging that this just worked here. Very encouraging. I mean, it's hardly, yeah. Okay, actually, there's one more comment on our live stream. DCAT would only be useful if you use microdata on web pages. Oh, I see, for SEO. Okay, well, separate issues. And that's interesting. Look at that. Look at all those clusters there. We can have, presumably, I don't know if we have it. Let's just for the heck of it, let's just see. Oh, never mind. I was thinking we could just do one of these with some actual property there, just to see this in more detail. Can you figure out what a property is in this thing?
Maybe if you go up, there's the list of properties.
Oh, these were the list of properties here.
So you can copy and paste an IRI.
Okay, well, let's say publisher here. Okay, so then I go there. Then that's a specific IRI, right?
Yes, and you could, if you like, even get rid of the right-hand side of the rule.
Well, doesn't matter. Let's do that. That's the publisher's values. Okay. Magnificent. If we say that, 13, and we say vertex Oh dear. Well, that's a bugette. I thought that was going to happen. I mean, that's something we should talk to the vertex labeling, the graph people about, because this is going to come up whenever you do stuff like this. Actually, we probably want a labeling function there to pick out just the pieces that are relevant.
So if you could go further, you could try to retrieve the RDFS label for each of those identifiers and then use them for labeling.
Right. Okay. Anyway, I got to go. Very nice. Talk to you all soon. Thank you for the comments on the live stream. Very useful. Much appreciated. Okay. See you later.